Hey everybody. Now that I'm back and rested from my much needed time away, it's time to get back to work. Originally, I wasn't going to do a video about the Smollett case, but then I noticed that there are things that everyone either missed or actively avoided. This video addresses those things specifically. So let's start by talking about the relevant facts first. Then I'll go into the implications and specifically what everyone else has either missed or they were too afraid to discuss. According to the Daily Mail report dated March 8, 2019, Jussie Smollett has been hit with an additional 15 counts of filing a false police report by a grand jury and is now facing up to 48 years behind bars. The Empire actor was initially charged with one Class 4 felony charge of disorderly conduct last month, but a grand jury has applied that charge 15 times over in a 36-page indictment that was returned on Thursday. Now, he is facing a maximum sentence of 48 years behind bars and fines up to $400,000. Now, the takeaways in this case are very simple. Smollett made up false allegations to demonize Trump supporters, and now he's being criminally prosecuted for his lies and his race baiting. Now, in order to really talk about this issue, we need to switch gears and we need to go back in time to 2018. You see, in 2018, USA Today reported, "I was angry and I sent it." Another Kavanaugh accuser referred to FBI after recanting. And this comes from USA Today, November 2nd, 2018. Now, the pertinent part of this article is the following statements right here. Monroe Leighton was brought into the saga after a graphic and anonymous letter was sent to Senator Kamala Harris in California. The letter included a story about Kavanaugh and another male groping, sexually assaulting, and ultimately raping a woman in a vehicle after a party. The letter was signed by a Jane Doe from Oceanside, California. The allegations came amid a number of other stories from women, including Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, who claimed Kavanaugh had assaulted them while they were in high school or college. Kavanaugh was questioned about the letter in September under oath and categorically denied the allegations. "The whole thing is ridiculous," he said. "The whole thing is just a crock, farce, wrong, didn't happen, not anything close." Several days later, Grassley said Monroe Leighton wrote an email that included her name. He said Senate investigators were able to track her down and found she lived in Kentucky, not California, and was a Democrat. Investigators got in touch with her over the phone, and Monroe Leighton admitted she wrote the email after seeing the Jane Doe letter in news reports. She said she claimed to be Jane Doe so that the letter would gain attention. "I was angry, and I sent it out," the woman told investigators, according to Grassleys Letter, but in fact did not write it. Now, here is the letter from Grassley to the Attorney General requesting that they review her situation as well for false allegations. Now, I'll include a copy of this letter in the description of this video so that you guys can read it in its entirety. It is an interesting letter, and it's nice to see that people are starting to become more red-pilled when it comes to false allegations. With that in mind, let's switch to PJ Media and their article from December 13th, 2018, entitled, "Christine Blasey Ford is the poster girl for fake sexual assault allegations." Now, they state, "It's hard to say with certainty whether Christine Blasey Ford has memory issues, mental problems, or is just a liar, but it is crystal clear that her allegations that she was sexually assaulted by Brett Kavanaugh aren't true. So when Sports Illustrated shoehorned her into announcing an award, it seems strange." Of course, people get very angry when you point out the obvious fact that Ford made a false allegation. You get told, "This is why women who are sexually assaulted don't come forward. You should blame Ford for that. She's the one who made a fake accusation during a high-profile Supreme Court confirmation hearing." Others will say, "Ford is a victim. She's a survivor." However, in this case, the victim is Brett Kavanaugh. He was the one falsely accused of something he didn't do in front of the world, which makes her the perpetrator. Oh, but she doesn't have anything to gain. Well, except for the $1,000 in GoFundMe money that goes straight into her pocket, offers to do a book deal, Sports Illustrated holding her up to be some kind of hero, and what appeared to be a chance to prevent Republicans from gaining a Supreme Court seat. The motivation for her to lie was enormous. And by the way, Blasey Ford has a history of being a left-wing activist. So, with that said, what were people's problems with Blasey Ford's testimony? Well, according to the New York Post, there are 8 big problems for Christine Blasey Ford's story. The first one is that Ford still can't recall basic details of what she says was the most traumatic event in her life. Not where the assault took place, she's not sure whose house it was, or even what street it was on. Nor when, she's not even sure of the year, let alone the day and the month. Ford concedes she told no one what happened to her at the time, not even her best friend or her mother. The 4 other people she identified as attending the party, including Kavanaugh, all deny knowledge of the gathering in question. Her own immediate family doesn't appear to be backing her up either. Her mother, father, and 2 siblings are all conspicuously absent from a letter of support released by a dozen relatives, mostly on her husband's side of the family. The letter attests to her honesty and integrity. Why didn't her parents and brothers sign the letter? A congressional source familiar with the investigation wondered. Ford tried to reach out to old friends from high school and college to jog her memory. They couldn't help her. Yet, she still pushed forward with her bombshell charge, contacting the Washington Post tip line and Democratic lawmakers while hiring a Democratic activist lawyer. Ford is also a Democrat as well as an anti-Trump marcher, raising questions about the motive and the timing of the allegations along with their veracity. Ford contends that notes her therapist took in 2012 corroborate her account, but they don't mention Kavanaugh. Another inconsistency, Ford told the Washington Post that she was upset when Trump won in 2016 because Kavanaugh was mentioned as a Supreme Court pick. But Kavanaugh wasn't added to Trump's list of possibilities until November 2017, a full year later. Now, this brings us back to the Smollett case and the first thing that everyone is not talking about in relation to it, and that is due process. Now, according to Cornell Law School, the Constitution only states one command twice. The Fifth Amendment says to the federal government that no one shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, uses the same 11 words, called the Due Process Clause, to describe a legal obligation of all states. These words have as their central promise an assurance that all levels of American government must operate within the law, legality, and provide fair procedures. Then they go on to state, while there is no definitive list of required procedures that due process requires, Judge Henry Friendly generated a list that remains highly influential as both to content and relative priority. Number 1, an unbiased tribunal. Number 2, notice of the proposed action and the grounds asserted for it. Number 3, opportunity to present reasons why the proposed action should not be taken. Number 4, the right to present evidence, including the right to call witnesses. Number 5, the right to know opposing evidence. Number 6, the right to cross-examine adverse witnesses. Number 7, a decision based exclusively on the evidence presented. Number 8, opportunity to be represented by counsel. And number 9, requirement that the tribunal prepare a record of the evidence presented. And finally, number 10, the requirement that the tribunal prepare written findings of fact and reasons for its decision. So, if you followed this channel for any length of time, you'll know that I often talk about the Duluth model and how it was created fraudulently in the early 1980s. I even created a video on it where I quote one of the founders, Ellen Pence, admitting the Duluth model was a scam in a publicly released college textbook from around the year 2000. Yet every judge, police officer, military member, and every family law attorney everywhere in the United States has been trained in the Duluth model for generations. The Duluth model is the most commonly used DV intervention program in the world. Even programs that don't use the Duluth model, they use programs that are based on it. And it's a confirmed fraud. So what does this mean? Well, let's talk more about Smollett. The only reason Smollett is being charged with a crime is because of due process. You see, due process protects the accused as much as it protects everyone else. It protects them also from false accusations of crimes. Smollett falsely accused someone of a crime, and the police realized his allegations weren't credible, so he was criminally charged. Yet, when women falsely accuse men of crimes, they almost never get charged. And women falsely accuse men of crimes almost daily in the family court and on college campuses. And don't even get me started with the Me Too mass fraud. This easily provable double standard constitutes discrimination against men because women get a pass which enables them to commit the crime of falsely accusing men of crimes, often with little to no criminal accountability, all the while destroying the man's personal and professional reputation and life in the process. This is why more and more men are suing colleges in federal court for being falsely accused of assaults under Title IX, because Title IX tribunals do not protect due process. But it's far worse than that. You see, due process is only protected when the falsely accused man is put before an unbiased tribunal. However, because every judge, prosecutor, and police officer in the United States has received mandatory Duluth training, they are biased because they believe the lies about men that the Duluth-based training teaches them. In effect, these judges, college officials, police officers, and prosecutors are being trained to hate and discriminate against men based on the provable fraud called the Duluth model. Make no mistake, the prosecution of Smollett, regardless of how it turns out, is a victory for due process rights guaranteed under the Constitution of the United States. But the thing about Smollett and other false accusers like him is that he thought he would get away with it because feminist bigots have been using the exact same tactics to destroy men's lives for decades, and all Smollett did was follow the feminist playbook. Even the media jumped on the false allegation fake news bandwagon, just like they do with every other SJW or feminist false accuser, because they're more concerned about buttressing their narrative than they are about reporting the truth. Smollett is a case study as to why every time a woman accuses a man of intimate assault, she should be required to file a police report and let the police do their job. The police are more likely to get to the truth than any man-hating Title IX tribunal or any bigoted family court. When false accusers are uncovered, the police are in a better position to hold these liars accountable, which will help prevent false accusations of crimes in the future. Title IX tribunals and family courts should not be allowed to prosecute men for crimes. That is the job of the criminal court system. And as long as this practice continues, innocent men's lives will continue to be destroyed. I'm DDJ, and this is your dose of misandry today.